pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the July action meeting. Is there any citizen request to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to reports. First up, facilities and grounds. Dustin Hayes joining us.
All right. This must have been a 6'5" guy. Okay, so facilities and grounds, I just want to kick it off with our team section of the report. And I'll dive right into it. So this year we implemented a new high school weekend overtime rotation. I am on the wrong one. Let's just go right to students. Go back. Students are more important here right now. Okay, so a big push since I've been here is ADA access. I just want to highlight a few projects and items. So we've just continued identifying and replacing and putting in ADA doorway access for students and staff with mobility needs. At the high school, we focused on our curb cutouts, our color contrast, and the texture of getting from the parking lot onto the sidewalks as part of our projects for addressing those needs and access issues. We've added high contrast strips. That was a nice middle school project. The big one is started the EP Rock Playground. You'll see that in the next slide. We've come a long ways on that one. We're just looking into our fall protection. And then those little drop-off points will have some really nice ramping for students in wheelchairs and a nice little swing. So it just kind of plays into the theme of our ADA access. We finished a lift project at the high school. That's that little picture in the top right there. It's an odd ADA wheelchair lift that takes students down to the wrestling room from the main floor. Very tricky to get finished. It's pretty nice and functioning now and almost brand new. So we're really proud of that one. We completed finally the North Hudson playground with some other repairs, so the students have full access on that. We implemented a new hard gym floor surface care program and really just identifying in all our gyms things we can do that kind of improve the longevity of it, improve every time we finish it, keeping it safe, keeping the tack down for the students, so that was a big win for us. We've improved on our weekly turf care program, mainly just at the high school, the synthetic turf on our varsity field and our practice field. We've really narrowed down kind of how to improve the useful life of it. We finished off that culinary arts studio at the high school, which has been great for the classroom. And then we really improved on the Willow Cinder lot over the last year, just making that more useful for the students. So as I jumped ahead at the beginning, I'll get into our team here. The first one I just kind of started with our high school overtime rotation. We've created new opportunities for staff and just reduced the need to bring on any new staff, which has been really well received. We really improved on our annual safety training. That was a big one for us. Took the feedback from our staff, kind of spiced it up a little bit. Nick came in, said a lot of good things, so it went really well. We provided really good continuing education opportunities for our head custodians, and for those of you who don't know, that's our daytime leader in the building, so that's a big win for them. We improved and updated our Custodial 101 manuals. You'll see a nice little picture of the front of those in the next slide. That was good. Every custodian and maintenance employee on staff has a nice guidebook. We're really proud of that one. Numerous facilities and ground staff was recognized in Cheers for Peers, which is really exciting. We partner with the Hudson Fire Department. This was a huge one. We really reduced just a lot of the clutter and safety and fire hazards around all the schools, and the principals were great partnering with them and working through those issues. Big one is we built a new IT office at the high school, just down the way from my office. We're excited about that one. We moved them over. And then we did some good partnership with CISA 10 this year. A lot of environmental and health and safety issues, and they helped us implement a new safety walkthrough program, which is really exciting. And finally, our community. So we host a lot of events, a lot of big, fun events. Of course, I'm not going to list them all because it would take pages and pages, but some of the big ones, the Community Spring Expo is huge, Hot Air Fair, getting through kind of a winter that wasn't as conducive to parking everyone out there and working them all through. That was a big challenge, and we got that one going, which was really exciting. Pepperfest, we use North Hudson a lot for that as far as staging and cooking, so it's kind of good to partner on that one. Numerous dance recitals, quilt shows, craft fairs, just a ton of events. That next bullet point, that just kind of highlights our evening leadership custodian in the building. The high school and middle school did a fabulous job over the last year. They're kind of faced with the brunt of events, and the two gentlemen that are in those roles did a wonderful job communicating and connecting with the community. We worked through numerous pool challenges, HVAC and safety projects that were completed for the user groups. Finished up that parking lot at middle school, just creating more safety for everyone using the site. And then kind of a fun one, we provided support and access at EP Rock and Rivercrest recently for the USPCA K9 Dog Training Trials event. I know it's a mouthful, but that's the United States Police Canine Association. And I guess this is one of the few years they had it where nobody failed their training. So all the dogs passed. It was kind of cool. And then last but not least, we partnered with the city of Hudson at Rivercrest Elementary for an Arbor Day planting project. We put in 3 new trees where we had some failures of some trees that weren't so drought resistant, but got some nice ones up. So just our community events and a dog jumping in a barn.
Okay.
Any questions?
Mr. President?
Yes, Molly.
I think I'm on here. I just wanted to say thank you. I love the list of everything that you do. I don't know that we always realize what goes on behind the scenes and how you contribute to safety and education. And especially when you were talking about the high contrast strips, I actually fell off a curb one time because they had it painted green at night. So I can vouch that even for people without seeable, knowable disabilities, that's important. So thank you very much for all that you guys do. It's really important.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And a question that we get is, where are we at on the 10-year facility plan? And I know that it was, before our last referendum, obviously, we addressed a lot of those needs. What is the likely timing on, because we're going to be looking at some construction over the next 12, 18 months. So where are we, what's the timing for updating that 10-year plan?
I would probably defer to Nick on that one. But
Yeah, I think as soon as we kind of finish up with the 3 projects that we have going, and then I think there needs to be some ongoing conversation about, the long-term use of all of our facilities and where the board sees that going. Then I think once that's determined, then we'll be able to that'll dictate, where the biggest projects are going to be and where we're going to stick funds.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I figured that was something that you're looking for guidance from the board for, but I didn't want to speak, for you regarding that. So, but thank you for all you do. Kate, did you have anything? You look like you're.
I did have just a quick question. You mentioned the safety walkthrough with the CISA staff or board.
CISA 10, yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so they come through once a year, and we walk the whole site with through the elementaries, and they just point out any potential safety issues. It's just kind of above and beyond what the fire department will do. So any egress, access issues, anything that could come up in a fire drill, door safety. So, yeah,
Thanks for all your work. Appreciate the report. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks, Elston.
All right, next up, Sue Helmers. You start with Willow River and go into 4K.
Yep. All right. Tim, can you go to there you go. Perfect. So this year our students, and actually our staff as well, focused a lot on literacy. We did a lot of reading incentives. We had parents taking pictures of kids caught reading at home, and teachers chose Readers of the Month just to keep kids engaged and excited about reading. We also had a lot of partnerships, particularly with our 4th and 5th grade with the FIPS. They did some different art projects and displays, and then worked on a project with the final art bench with the Carpenter Nature Center. And then we had 19 students participate in the Friendship Games, which included several districts around our area. Other achievements we have, we're really blessed with some scholarships that we are able to give to students. We have a FIPS art camp that was given to 6 students in memory of Ben Prince, an Awesome Award to a 4th grader in memory of a previous student, and a Champion for Life Award that goes to a 5th grader. It's some money for post-secondary that is in memory of a past Willow parent. So lots of things to keep kids engaged and involved. Our staff also was very focused on literacy. In our PLCs, our teachers worked on common formative assessments, which were used to measure grade level classroom and individual growth in the area of literacy. We had several teachers being trained in the letters training, as well as implementing our new phonics program, and 6 teachers that were trained in a dyslexia training. In addition, we had some author visits. We had Young Authors Day, which is an annual event at Willow. We had high school reading helpers come on Mondays to help read with students in all grade levels. We had 3rd grade homework club, which also invited some high school students through NHS. We had a family literacy night, and then, like I had mentioned, lots of at-home reading incentives, as well as some special ones over spring break and winter break. And then finally, our school community, we as a staff really tried to focus on the whole engagement of families, parents and students, and really staff as well. We piggybacked on our literacy focus and had a literacy night. We had a math night. We had parenting with pride classes for 4K through 5th grade. We did an escape room, which was something unique, and I think the families really enjoyed. Boot camps, we have a fine arts night, and then we have our Willow Walk on the last day of school. In addition, the community service things that students were involved in, stuff a truck, we do an Earth Day litter pickup, collected socks for soldiers, and they made cards for senior homes throughout Hudson. So lots of things that brought our families into our buildings and brought our kids back to school. And you know, as I looked at how many kids and families we had back, there was quite a few events and well attended by our students. So overall, our focus this year was on literacy, community building within our building and within our families, and school-wide involvement throughout the Hudson community, just in an effort to increase engagement of students, staff, and families. Any questions?
About Willow?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I just want to highlight 2 things that I happened to see. Not that all of this isn't extra special, but the cards for seniors, I work in a lot of senior facilities, and they have them all hanging up. They're so proud of them. So it makes such a huge difference for
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah.
And puts such a big smile on their face. And on mine when I get to read them. And then Molly and I think, attended the escape room, which was wildly successful. Tons and tons of kids there.
And it was hard.
We did have a few kids.
Right
Just
before-
got here.
Yeah,
Thanks. Appreciate the support.
we did have a few
it was
kids in
painted green.
tears, but you know, sometimes it's good to have to persevere. But yeah, it was, and they were leveled, so like, you know, young kids and older kids could all participate. So, adults. Any other questions?
And then the 4K.
All right, so switch gears. So 4K, our enrollment has continued to grow steadily. We had our January count was 334, which is the largest group we've had at that point. We started in September at 325, so we continued to grow over the year. We have 22 students repeating. 7 out of our 37 open enrolled students are staying for kindergarten, and 1 is repeating. Our current count right now is 240 students in Skyward, but we have 310 on our spreadsheet, which means people have indicated an interest. They just haven't completed enrollment, which is sort of the thorn in my side with 4K. It's a dual, they have to register at the partner sites and also through Skyward, and sometimes they don't realize that Skyward part. So that's part of our job, is just to continue to hound and get them to register. We have 15 currently open enrolled, but there is still time for that. Last year at this time, I've been trying to start tracking numbers by month, and last year we did have about 40 more students at this time at the end of July, so I don't know if we'll get 40 more students throughout these next 2 weeks, so maybe a little bit behind last year, but pretty steady in how we've been increasing. We implemented a Haggerty Phonics, and we did a mid-year benchmark just to see where we were at, and we went from 54% of kids meeting the benchmark to 71% meeting the benchmark at the end of the year, which I think was really great because it was our first time with this curriculum. there's a lot of teachers there's quite a bit of turnover in some of our partner sites, so just keeping everybody kind of moving forward is always a challenge, and I felt like we did a really great job, was very intentional about our professional learning, about implementation, assessment, and then looking at that data. Our professional development does focus on our curriculum. We did 4 in-person trainings, and we did 5 PLCs, or virtual trainings, where all of the sites, school and partner sites, gather together virtually, and we do some training. Up here I have, the phonics program. We have creative curriculum. We also have a list of non-negotiables that we've had in place, and an observation tool. I went out to all of the sites and did the observation tool, and the directors did that as well. So it's always nice to be able to give feedback and kind of just see where things are at with each of our sites. Next year, we will have 2 school sites instead of 3, but we will still have 3 classrooms. We'll have an AM and a PM classroom at Rivercrest, and 2 AM and 2 PM at Willow. We have 2 sites that have withdrawn their participation, so we have 7 community partner sites for next year. Our plan is to continue to provide the professional learning for Haggerty, and moving forward with all of the phonics kinds of things that are being put into place through Act 20. And then finally, we have part of the program is 87.5 hours of community outreach, and so those include a lot of district-wide activities that we plan, and we usually have about 150 to 200 people attending those. Ice cream always brings a lot of people, but I try to get people to different locations throughout the community, like the public library, so they see what we have to offer for our families. At the end of the year, I did a family survey, and a 92% rated their child's overall experience as a 4 or 5 out of 5, and 87% of parents rated their own experience as a 4 or 5 out of 5. So I feel like we're getting good feedback, and things are going well from both my perspective and the families and partners that are involved. I'm proud of the program that we have built and we've maintained. This is I believe it was our 6th year, and we've continued that focus on play as well as some academics, really focusing on what's best to prepare our youngest learners for school. Questions for 4K?
I guess with the 2 facilities partners that have dropped out, is there anticipation that there will be more coming to our 3 classrooms in place of those 2, or?
Yes. We have kind of taken a cap off of our wrap care. That has been one of the barriers for families to be able to come to our school sites. So we increased our wrap care options. And so I think all of our classrooms are just about full. So all of our wrap care is full at this point. I think maybe 1 or 2 spots left, but we are definitely have more students in our school sites for this coming fall.
If we increase that cap on the wrap care, would that increase possibly open enrollment?
Potentially. With open enrollment, I waited until our district people were placed in wrap care, and so we did have space, but I think that sometimes is a worry because we don't know that till June, and people want to get something, guaranteed before that, and so that helped having a little bit more flexibility with more space in that wrap care program this year.
Okay. Dave, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just that open enrollment, we don't turn away any 4K open enrollment, so they're all welcome, and we guarantee we'll find a spot. With this shift, that may open up more spots in our own sites, and if we need to create more classrooms within our existing schools, we would do so. We wouldn't turn anyone away. We'll keep on expanding as we need to.
Right. I meant they would choose a partner site rather than our
It's
school
not like
site.
we're short classrooms to be able to hold.
No, because some of our some of our partner sites still have lots of space available right now. And so we have plenty of room. Right now, really, it's only the school sites that are full or reaching that level.
Yeah, right. Okay, very good. Well, thank you for your reports. Appreciate all the work you're doing at Willow and overseeing the 4K. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, next up, we have another double report. Shannon Sexy.
Yeah, good evening. So I'll start with North. And I have lots of things listed, but I'm just going to highlight a few of them for you, so we're not here till midnight. Starting with North and our students. Our school participated in a one book, one school project where every classroom read the same book. The book was Kenny and the Dragon, and it had a sort of a friendship theme about it. And one fun thing with this is the classes would each read the same chapters every day, but we had some staff members and some parents who recorded those. So some of the chapters were videotaped by parents, which was kind of fun. We also did the one that one student from each class was nominated as Reader of the Month on the first of each month. So students were nominated based on their engagement in reading, both in and out of school, and if they were making good book choices and setting goals and those types of criteria. Students got a call home if they were nominated for that, and they also got to eat donuts with the principal or the assistant principal. Yeah, that's kind of a fun new thing.
Who doesn't like donuts?
Yeah, exactly. And we did find the Quick Trip donuts. The plain ones were the bigger hit over the berry or the, yeah, any of those. Yeah. And then all grade levels, this was also new for North Hudson, that all grade levels chose a service learning project that benefited our community. And that ranged from, like, kindergarten, they chose Coco's Heart. They liked the dogs, and they got to learn about that charity and ways that they could help. And that was by making things. And then we also did, like, placemats for comforts of home was one of, like, was fourth grades. And collecting things for warm and winter was another grade level. So that was new for us, and every grade level chose one, and they're looking at choosing maybe the same, maybe different ones next year, but that's something that we will keep up. On to our team. We made an intentional, we had an intentional goal set around making connections with students so that all students had an adult that they could trust in the building. And at the end, our results show that 100% of our students could name 2 adults in our building that they could trust and feel like they could talk to. Another big one for us at North Hudson, which I think is for the district as well, Mrs. Gornick, Megan Gornick, she was awarded the Fox 9 Top Teacher Award. So in talking with that organization, they said they had just hundreds of nominations that they got to read through. So they came and they surprised Mrs. Gornick at one of our all-staff meetings, and she was definitely surprised. So kind of a big thing for our school and also for our district. In our community, we had something pretty cool. Ian Witt, he's a former student at North Hudson, and it was his 18th birthday when he came back to North Hudson with his mom and did a presentation on Down syndrome to our 4th and 5th grade students. So that was really special for him and for us. And I know that they did it at EP Rock too. They're kind of testing things out. They might be going national with their show. So it was kind of a cool thing for Ian and for our students too. Our family engagement opportunities, we have a very good parent group, I think like every school does, that create a lot of things for our families and our students to get together. We had playground night, movie night, board game night, which was new, STEAM night, the literacy night, restaurant fundraisers, and then what I didn't list on here was our first time doing a color fun run. That was a fundraiser that our PTO did, and so the kids all got to run, and lots of families attended that, and they all got color sprayed at the end. And then again, our Patriot Day program that we do at North every year, that we honor service members that have connections to North Hudson Elementary. Any questions on North?
Questions for North Hudson?
It's the best school in the land, I
Yes.
hear.
Lots of
what it
connections
says.
here too, yep. Okay, on to Holton. Okay, so at Holton, our students, we had 54 students that participated in our school-wide talent show. And each year that I've been there, every grade is represented. So yes, our kindergarten students get up on that stage and they perform talent. So that's kind of a fun tradition. One student per month was nominated as Holton's Artist of the Month, and that's new for Holton too. So it's kind of similar to the reading award that we had at North. They were chosen based on their engagement in art, their positive attitude, and also their effort. And then new at Holton this year, we had students that led our all-school meetings. It wasn't just me that chose our topics. The teachers, the grade levels got together, decided what the theme would be for our all-school meeting, and in almost every single one of them, the students led it. The students did the work, and they presented and faced their nervousness challenges and did a really wonderful job. And they chose themes around like gratitude and kindness and perseverance. Our team, again, Holton, we did the same thing at North, we were intentional about our connections with students, and Holton also, 100% of our students could name two adults that were trusted in our buildings and adults that they could trust and talk to. We had a lot of cross-building collaboration. I would say a lot of our across the district, we're reaching out to our Holton staff to see, well, how did you do this? How did that work so well for you? And so our Holton staff did a lot of in-person meetings and also virtual meetings, connecting with staff and how things work. I also wanted to mention, because it kind of ties into every one of them, but with our community, we do have a lot of traditions at Holton that it does take a little extra time, a little extra planning, just a little more effort on our traditions that staff make sure happen, mostly because it's important to them and to the students and families too. Things like our kite day, our all-school skate, our bazaar, and all of those have teacher input and planning, and also volunteer, and our garden club. Our community. We had a Veterans Wall of Honor that's built to recognize service members connected to Holton. And again, we have a great HPA, a parent group at Holton that sponsored lots of events like Mindfulness Night, STEAM Night, the Glow Walk, our Bazaar, the All-School Skate, and also an author visit this year.
Lots going on.
Lots going on.
All right. Any questions for Holton then? Yeah, I was going to say, with 54 students in the talent show, how many does that leave in the audience?
Well, it leaves about, what, 120?
Okay.
But lots of parents attend that too, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
You're good.
Very good.
Any
Well,
other
thank you.
questions?
Thank
Yeah,
you for all
okay.
your work.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the HR report.
Yes. So first up, I switched the order a little bit, have our team. And if you go to the pictures as well, I liked how they did that, so I'll just talk about the specifics. Certainly, we did the regular business of the HR department in terms of recruitment of staff. We posted and filled 45 certified staff, 158 support staff vacancies. A lot of work to do, those nuts and bolts of HR, but really taking pride in some of the new work that we've been doing, specifically the onboarding. We have a new onboarding committee comprised of, I think, 7-8 different administrators who are dedicated to creating, defining, enhancing, and supporting transparent, consistent processes and programs for new certified staff. Definitely a need that we've heard from our staff and our new hires that this needs to occur. So we are in a multi-year process of revamping our onboarding. We also created the Veteran Ambassador Committee as part of the onboarding committee. It's a volunteer-based committee comprised of veteran staff members who are dedicated to supporting probationary staff in new and creative ways. And you can see the winter social that was very successful that occurred at Louis in January. We're definitely going to be doing that again. We're also planning an event for August 13th where we're going to have a meet and greet for new teachers before they even start to connect some of those new teachers with our veteran staff and administrators at the FIPS. So working on finalizing some of those activities that are going forward. And then we also created a new special education paraprofessional onboarding committee to focus on some retention issues we have in that area and how we can better support. Then when it comes to retention, another big focus of the department, we celebrate and support our staff. We have the wellness walk, which is very popular, and we added games this year, and we will continue to add more games because people really like the games. They won silly things like hats and first aid kits and little giveaways, but there was long lines, especially for beanbags. You can see there, I think Josh and Jordan were in charge of that. And then we certainly led the creation and implementation of the new Raider compensation system with the RCS committee, and that was a a big initiative throughout the course of this past year. We continue the celebration of staff with Cheers for Peers. We revamped the Wellness Challenge in February 2024. Lots of little challenges, and the handout down in the bottom right-hand corner there kind of lays out each week's focus of body, mind, spirit, and then just continuous reach outs that resulted in a really positive experience with hundreds doing it. So then the recognition banquet as well. So the biggest one we've ever had, over 220 attendees at our annual banquet. Then going to our school community. So this is a fun part of this exercise, is looking at all the ways that we connect with the community that you don't necessarily think about with HR, but we partner with the Chamber of Commerce for that new teacher luncheon on a regular basis, which is coming up August 19th. We unite with the United Way to do a campaign for raising funds where we get 50% of the funds back as grants for peer helpers and angel funds. We collaborate with Hudson physicians for flu shots, COVID shots, and all of that. And then coordinating with area universities for over 135 student teacher placements, field placements, observations for 23-24. We had a float, and many Hudson Lead members are part of this, as evidenced by the picture, the float in the North Hudson Pepperfest Parade. We plan to do it again because people really loved it, whether it was the candy or the pencils. People really seemed to enjoy us having a presence at that parade. And then certainly the continued partnership with the Hudson Education Foundation in terms of the banquet. Then students. Certainly important work is staffing to support our students, so a big part of our winter process is the working on the roll-up of kids, what do we need at each grade level in terms of our certified staffing, and then working through those processes and all those changes. And gathering input at different levels to make sure that if we need to make changes, we get that information from the teachers directly, and then we're working collaboratively with the principals. Student transportation is, I had to find some good pictures of the buses, because that is something that is within the HR department, and we've been working this year with Trevor Hagerman, who's the new person in charge of the routing and oversight of the transportation area. So working with him, and he's been running with this, and we've already revised transportation policies, as you guys know, because you guys took action, where we're trying to make sure that our practices are consistent with and transparent and reflect our actual practices. Then the Family Fun Night, which is part of the Wellness Challenge, but was really, I think, one of our favorite events of the whole year. We had over 320 staff and their families attending. Tracy's face painting is legendary at this point, and it's just a fun night that I think a lot of people look forward to, and so we want to continue doing that. And safety of students, certainly a priority, and we processed and reviewed over 2,000 background checks this past year. So that's a little summary of what we did in HR this past year.
All right. Questions?
Mr. President, I just want to say, one thing I've noticed over the years that HR really shines in is making sure that staff feel appreciated with some of these fun events that you do, and I can tell that you and your team really enjoy it. So I think that makes all the difference, so thank you so much for that.
Yes, and you're reminding me of all the things you do. We just appreciate getting invited to that stuff. So, and the heads up, I know it's coming a little early this year, the welcome back lunch and the welcoming the new teachers. This last year, we had about half as many as we had the prior year. So
Yeah, and we're about, I think, around 40 this year too. So not as much as that 75 year, thankfully.
Right, yeah. All right, very good. Any other questions then for HR? But yeah, again, I think that's a great comment by Kate, is the emphasis on the gratitude, because we are grateful for our staff and, and all the work that you're doing at HR to try and retain those great people that we hire. So, any other questions? Otherwise, that concludes the reports, and we'll go to a budget update from Bonnie.
I know you guys are on the edge of your seat for this one. So. Tim, do you want to hit the preliminary budget, that link? So I just wanted to update you. We've been working on the budget, getting it ready for you. The biggest thing this month was we did get our equalization aid estimate. Unfortunately, our aid did go down about $3 million. That was mainly tied to our high property value, our decreased student enrollment, and also the Milwaukee Public School took a bigger chunk of the state aid because they passed that huge operating referendum. It was like $200 million. So they get a lot of that aid that goes with it. So that affects the rest of the districts in the state. Where we're ending, we're still projecting about a $1.5 million surplus from the 23-24 budget. Interest exceeded what we had budgeted this year. We had additional E-rate funding and common school funds. We had conservative spending, mostly due to utilities and snow removal. We had quite a bit of surplus in those areas. And staffing changes, like we've had positions that we haven't been able to fill and positions that we filled have come in lower than what we had expected. So then if you look at the cover letter with the major assumptions, like I said, the major change was the equalization aid. We plugged that in. We hope to get our property valuation. We should get our first estimate next month, so that will help us. I also included a copy of the staffing reductions, just to keep that, you know, you have been very active of being what we needed to do. The employment settlements have been built into the budget. Health insurance premiums increased 3%. There was 0 increase in dental. And then just an update that the UU property is still slated for sale, so we're hoping that that goes through in the next 90 days. So I think that's where we're at. We'll keep updating you. We are right now projecting a deficit budget of about $800,000 for next year. I do anticipate that that's going to go down once we get our new staff plugged in. They're coming in a little bit lower than what we have right now, and with the new compensation system, we'll have some savings in that too. So that was an update. If anybody has any questions.
Again, it's always an evolving process, and then we're asked to approve the budget before we get our
Yeah.
final numbers. But that budget vote is always slated for the night of the annual meeting,
Yep,
which is, what, the first Monday
in September.
in September, second Monday, because we don't want to meet on Labor Day, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Bonnie.
Yep.
Enrollment update, Andrea.
Okay, so the document that's linked here just shows that document you're very used to in terms of the format. The first one is the elementary analysis, so a little more red than what you've seen in the past up to this point, but our numbers are getting a little more firm. The red numbers are primarily one above or almost one above. We have Willow at that first and second grade. Second grade is one grade that we tend to let get a little bit higher because of the transition to third grade, the class size guidelines going between 1822 to 22 to 27. The Prairie one jumped at K. All of a sudden, I think he's added 4 or 5 kids in a week. Oh, my microphone is not on, sorry. So yes, the document, I guess I should restart just in terms of the familiarity of the document, the analysis here. The green is under class size guidelines, the red is over the recommended guidelines, but they are guidelines. The one grade that we continue to watch is third grade at 28 at Hudson Prairie. But you can also see there's still a lot of green. Good news is between when we were looking in June and now, we added, I think 30 kids or so at the elementary level. So that's good news. But this time of year is also when things kind of start coming out in the wash a bit, right? Where some of the transfers that occur based on moves start to get reflected and may not yet be reflected in the numbers. August will be a much more accurate representation of where we expect to land at the start of the school year. Middle school, high school enrollments. We have to have some more conversation with the high school. There was a big jump in 12th grade between June and July. And so we're going to dive into that number a little bit more, 40 additional kids just in that grade. But other than that, it's pretty steady compared to prior reports.
Mr.
Kate?
President, I'm just looking at the 4K numbers, and I mean, the AM for Willow River looks like 40 kids. Is that, how many teachers per student, or how does that?
So the way that would work, if you have 12 or fewer students, that's one teacher. Once you go over 12, then it's a teacher and a paraprofessional. Up to 23, never goes over 23. And then we expand from there, but it looks like a higher number because there's AM and PM. So it's a half day for each of those across the 2 classrooms. That make sense?
So it's 2 classrooms of PM and 2 classrooms
yep.
of AM.
So you're looking at really 20 and 20 in the morning.
Correct.
And then 15 and 14 in the afternoon.
Just another, wondering if we can do it. I noticed on this screen, a couple of the reds look a little darker than the others, and so that just gave me an idea. When we're within one, if we could have it like be a really lightly shaded green or red if we're within one, and then maybe darker if it's, more than one.
Okay, yep, I
Yeah.
can do that.
Because I think that, when you look at it at a glance, it looks like we're way overstaffed, but, some of these, we can't help it. It's either we got to have really large one-section class at Holton, or we have the two small ones. So,
Correct.
and then our numbers, though, are looking, really good when you look at average class size over the 6 buildings. We don't have any grades that are more than 23, and that's even for 5th grade, so.
Yeah, I think we have the smaller schools that the difference between 2 sections and 3 sections is so big. If we were to pop to 3, versus Prairie with their 3, 4 sections, it's just easier to stay within those ranges that we'd like to be at when you're in the bigger buildings. But yeah, there's a couple grades in Holton that are very small.
And so these 93 sections, just to give us some idea on, staffing for that, that's obviously 93 teachers.
Correct.
And then how many paras roughly? I mean, it varies based on,
That's so specific to special education that I wouldn't be able to speak to that offhand.
Okay.
I'm sure I can talk to Tara and we can get that information, because it's much more driven by need of the students depending on where they're located in the building. We don't have, like our regular ed paras primarily focus in like title support in Dave's department. But that's based purely, I believe, on percentage of eligibility for title services. Yeah.
okay. No, that's helpful, thank you.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up is, this is in Wise-Public, and you can take a look at this for any school district. This is enrollment trends, and so what you can see there, this is our school district over the last 5 years. Back in 1920, we had 5609, now down to 5251. So just in the last 5 years, drop of about 350
60
students.
kids a year.
But what I think is interesting is, you can look at any school district, and we have districts that are like, oh, well, they're really growing. For example, there's been a lot of conversation about New Richmond must really be growing. Look at all the new housing going up. Something's going on in Hudson that nobody wants to live here, but everybody's going there. So if we look at their 5-year trend, if you look at, they were at last fall 55.32. 5 years ago, they were at 55.39.
Is that 35?
Or sorry, 35. Yep.
Yeah.
So you can see they had a drop and then they bounced back related to some of the pandemic stuff that we didn't quite see. But what's interesting is when you look at all the school districts in our county, we're the second or third fastest growing county in the state. Every school district except Glenwood City, for some reason, has declined in enrollment from 5 years ago. And it's not just our county. We started looking, I started trying to look at other districts, bigger districts, and what that looks like. If I look at, like, for example, Eau Claire, which is about twice the size of Hudson, you can see what their enrollment has done. It's gone from 11.5 down to 10.8. They're down about 700 kids. They're about twice our size. They're down about the same percentage. This is, the reason I bring this up is this is going on across the state. It doesn't really it doesn't really matter where you're at. And this is what starts to spark some of the conversation, as Bonnie talked about, related to budgets and things along those lines, is our budgets are set by number of students, but yet even when you lose students, you don't necessarily lose the expenditures because you don't lose them all in the same area. Even St. Croix Central, this is one, district to the east. You can see they've had a little bit of an enrollment bump, about 50 kids over 5 years. They came back after actually, I think it was some of their virtual school that showed a real big enrollment bump, and then they started to come back down. You can see what their enrollment's been doing over the last 4 years. But one of them that I thought was interesting, not to belabor this point, but even when we hear of Dane County, which is one of the fastest growing.
Sun Prairie, you're looking
You know, yeah, Sun Prairie School District. Again, considered, everybody would think, one of the fastest growing school districts in the state. Over the last 5 years, they're actually down 64 kids. So I think it's just important to note as we continue to get into discussions this fall and start talking about, you know, everybody thinks that, you know, we're just going to bounce back from this, or that the way out of some of our budget challenges or enrollment challenges are going to be open enrollment. Those are likely not real plausible solutions to things. And so, but again, this is part of WiseDash. It's a public portal. Anybody can look at this stuff. They can look at different districts around the state. There are very few districts around the state, I want to say, probably, you know, fewer than 60 districts out of 421 that actually show increased enrollment over the last 5 years. So just something to keep in mind as we are looking at our enrollment numbers and our budget numbers. We're hoping that things are going to kind of even off, and even Bonnie's budget projections show us dropping about 50 kids a year for the next 5 years. If that starts to kind of even out, you know, it will help. The budget will start to kind of even out as well. So as we kind of work through it.
Well, no, that's helpful to know the enrollment trends. It's not, you know, we hear a lot about Hudson and affordability of housing and so forth, but it's also a combination of demographic and a cultural change as well. So, I mean, if you think about 50 to 60 students we've lost per year, that's roughly 1%. So we've averaged that, and that includes the COVID year, which every district lost students.
You know, but even like I pull up River Falls, they were 1920, they were at 35-17. They're currently at 34-52. So they're down 65, 70 kids now. Are they down to the same extent as we are? No. But I think that's just something to keep in mind, that it's something that almost every district is dealing with and their challenges moving forward. So,
All right. Then it looks like, Dave, you're up for the back-to-school schedule for staff.
All right, do you want me to take that?
sure.
Okay. All right, so back to school staff, we're excited, or our schedule for staff, we're excited about. Thank you, we're excited about everything that we have going on. There are a few adjustments to the way we run this schedule, but we have a lot happening. As Jamie mentioned earlier, starting a little bit earlier than normal, so October 14th and October 14th to the 16th, we have our Summer Academy. That's the optional professional development by teachers for teachers. If we keep on scrolling down, you'll see that on Friday, August 16th, our Year 1 elementary teachers will be engaged in some really meaningful professional learning around building classroom community. That was wildly successful last year, very important. We'll be continuing that as we move on. If we go a little bit forward there, by Friday, August 23rd, a date that's important for everyone, that's our district day. Certainly, board members are invited to attend that day, and our president will be speaking, I'm sure. We have the wellness walk, we have lunch, and then a welcome back address by our keynote speaker, Thomas C. Murray, who will be speaking about the way we can all support our kids, stay positive, and improve our culture. So excited about that. First day of school for everyone is Wednesday, August 28th, and excited to continue our tradition with our all-staff barbecue. That will be on Friday, September 6th.
All right. Excellent. Any questions for Dave on that? The, is that Monday one, the new educator orientation luncheon, we're going to have it at the high school venue?
Yes, we are.
But it is like an event that the chamber helps?
Yep, the chamber provides the catering for lunch, as well as, aligns the community businesses. And they have the wonderful gift bag for all of our brand-new staff. And then, it's always a great event. So hopefully you guys can all attend.
Okay. And hopefully we get a large percentage of those 40 new teachers to live in the district. That would be That'd be great.
Yes, we get that question a lot as well.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions then? All right, I'll move on to the action agenda, and prior to taking a motion for expenditures and consent, I'm going to be pulling the personnel pack, and we'll be voting on that separately. But,
Do you want to give rationale behind it?
yeah, and the rationale is because of our, it's a summer meeting, sparsely attended by board members. Thankfully, Bob was able to come in on Zoom and get us to our quorum. But when it comes to taking votes, things that have impact on the budget, a larger impact on the budget, we want to have 4 board members voting on that. And so we'll be doing roll call votes on the money votes, so to speak. Otherwise, typically we go with voice votes. I just didn't want there to be any uncertainty as to whether or not we had the necessary votes to pass the budgetary items. So that's why there's no one individual contract or anything like that that we're talking about for the
Yep.
personal.
And state law requires a majority of the whole board to pass any type of action as it relates to teaching contracts. And since we have new hires in the personnel pack, that's where we want to make sure that all board members vote on it. Because as Jamie and I were talking earlier, if a board member doesn't vote, they stay silent, yea or nay, then it's an abstention. And an abstention would then mean it's only 3 votes for it, and that would mean we wouldn't be able to issue those contracts related to that. And the only other item on here that would also be a roll call would also be the ratification of the bargaining agreement as well. So not necessarily because there's any issues with any of these things, but just because we're at such tight margins, we want to make sure that we are following all the state laws and procedures.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion for expenditures. Molly?
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent items and that the Chief Financial and Operations Officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $3,730,177.43.
All right, Bob, you just raise your hand if you want to second anything. Otherwise, do we have a second for the motion?
Second?
Yep, all right, Kate seconded. And we have motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Bob. I gotta make sure I keep that Zoom delay there. All right, any opposed? None. So the motion passes and the expenditures are approved. Now we will specifically vote on the personnel pack. Is there a motion to approve the hires and the contracts included therein?
I move we approve the personnel packet and the contracts presented therein.
Second?
All right, thanks, Kate. You guys will be busy, whether it's one motion. We got 3 people to make a motion or to second it, so that involves a majority of our board present. All right. So with that, Bob, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Molly?
Aye.
And Johnson says aye. I guess, refer to myself in the third person. All right, so that motion passes. There are no votes. Next up is approval of the construction projects.
Yeah, so we have Market and Johnson here, and we also have Matt Wolfer from Bray Architects. Essentially, what tonight's meeting is we went out and we rebid the projects as we talked about earlier this summer to try to get the projects within budget. What you're approving tonight is what is called the guaranteed maximum price as it relates to Market and Johnson's contract. If you remember correctly, when we signed the contract with them about a year ago this time, that's a to be determined until after the project is designed and we determine the costs associated with it. On the front here, you have a cover letter that I attached today, but you've had the same guaranteed maximum prices. They haven't changed. It's been the ones from this weekend that I sent you. But a couple of points I want to hit on, and then they're here if you have any specific questions for them, is what you can see in the cover letter is the guaranteed maximum price is the construction cost and then fees associated with Market and Johnson. It's not inclusive of design fees or things that are held outside of the project. You can kind of see that if you scroll down to page 3. Basically, the guaranteed maximum price is that box in red. And you can see it for each building. Everything below that are separate fees that we pay on the projects. And then at the very bottom, for each project, you can see the actual cost of the overall project. On the right, the column on the far right is the difference in price to the referendum budget. So whether if it's over or under compared to what we were planning on with the referendum, you can see the different projects as we go through here. And I can answer questions about it. But at the end of the day, a couple things I want to take note is right now we're projecting that the project should come in about $220,000 under budget as of right now, all things being equal. And that would be if we ended up spending 100% of all of our contingency funds and all of our allowances and everything else. Something to keep in mind is, as we've talked about before, contingency funds and allowances require district approval on those things. So it's not just people are just going to spend it and spend it all the way down. And so it still follows our normal change order process and things along those lines as we work through it. The other piece I would highlight is the district office is a separate. We've kept that separate from everything else. It's its own funding stream. Basically, it's going to be from the proceeds of this building. We'll be repaying our general fund back. The district office, originally we thought was going to be closer to $2 million. It actually came in just under $1.5 million. So I think that's definitely a highlight as we go through this process. The other thing that's attached to this document that I wanted to make sure that we highlighted was the bid tabulations, and that's basically in pages 5 through 20. And wanted to make sure people understood what kind of coverage we had. So all the different work scopes went out to bid and went out to rebid on the process, so you can see how all of the bidders came in. For the most part, we did take, I think, the low bid almost every time, unless there was an issue with the low bid. And the low bid could have had issues related to either they didn't have the right paperwork, they didn't have everything in their bid they were supposed to have, a number of those things. But that's what's been happening over the last week and a half. Market and Johnson's been, working through all those scopes to make sure that the low bidders truly are the low bidders and that the work's going to get done. At the end of the day, most of the areas had lots of coverage. There's some areas that only had one or two bidders on it, and that's not too different than what we would see anywhere else. But by delaying the projects and putting it out to rebid, we did end up saving substantial amount of money in order to get them back under budget and in a good spot with everything. So with that being said, what questions do you have either for me or for the market team or for Bray?
I just have a quick question. Was one of the reasons the bids came in high was because of the time compression? And now that we're having a little bit more time, is that lessening the cost, if that makes sense?
That was kind of the general consensus, I think, from Market and Johnson was by, so the projects, the reason there's a sense of urgency to get these approved as well, the guaranteed max price that allows the contracts to move forward is North Hudson's actually going to start next month. Some of the exterior, or the new construction part of North Hudson. The other two projects, EP Rock and the middle school, start December, I believe. So there's a little more lead time, giving contractors a little bit more time to ramp up to it. And so we think that's kind of what led to a better bidding environment. People had the ability to get the work and plan for the work.
And again, this is guaranteed maximum price, not guaranteed actual price.
Correct.
And so because things like contingency and allowances are above the line, so to speak, on things that are being included in Market Johnson's fee, if we don't need all that contingency, we don't have a lot of change orders, then that fee.
That's money
will go down.
we go through the end of the project and we adjust basically goes in as a change order deduct to the budget. Same thing with general conditions as well. The general conditions are all listed as well. So if all of a sudden we don't have as much general conditions, on-site construction, things like that, we don't pay for it. It's kind of a pay-as-you-go type of situation. So that's kind of how we're sitting. I mean, there are some things that are still, as we get into the projects, we believe we have everything covered, but there could be some unknown conditions that happen in these buildings. So not quite the level of extensive remodel we did at the high school in any of these buildings. So we feel pretty comfortable with it, but we're still carrying, I think, a hefty like 1.3 million in contingency going into these projects. So it's there is some contingency dollars there if we run into some unexpected things.
And not included in any of this would be any of the interest that we've earned on the money.
The interest, the $1.7 million in interest is included in this because we have to spend it on the projects. That's allowing us to do the 2 stations. It's allowing us to do asphalt replacement completely at the elementaries. But yeah,
But anything we save on the contingencies and stuff would be then money, because we have to spend that interest. And
Yep.
so it goes, we don't necessarily have to pull as much from our reserve fund.
correct. So because the board has allocated $15 million from fund balance to the projects, if the project comes in $1 million, let's say under budget at the end, then it means we only had to allocate $14 million from fund balance. And so that other $1 million we can undesignate and it would sit in fund balance. You could use it for other projects. You could use it for anything the board would like to use it for.
Right.
So,
And it just, I know we've talked about this a lot already, but I'm just trying to, because it is a public meeting and
Yep.
get the public, people that are moving into the district now and looking at their tax bills and so forth. I mean, this project was quite a bit different than the high school, because in the high school and the middle school project, which was 94 total million, we had a referendum for 90 million, so there was only 4 million in reserve, whereas these projects, a third of it is roughly being funded by the reserve fund.
yeah, by savings. Yep.
Yep. So, the other thing that I would point out, just to be clarifying, the BP1 and BP2, I'm assuming that refers to bid pack 1, bid
Yep.
pack 2, which we already approved.
You've already approved bid pack 1, bid pack 2 is some of the long lead item air handling equipment and then also the
Right.
backup generators.
They're gonna be
for
here
all
at
three
like
buildings.
7, something like that tomorrow. Yeah, so good start.
All right, Bob?
Bob, you're not muted anymore.
Yeah.
Let's see what.
Might want to move, yeah. All right. And then, on those general conditions, just again, just a brief summary of what what are the biggest items in general conditions for each of the buildings?
You guys want to touch on what are the big general
Could
conditions?
somebody come up to the microphone?
Hey, good afternoon. Most of the GCs are basically project staffing. A lot of it is on-site labor, our full-time superintendent, the project managers when they're on-site. So a lot of it is basically personnel managing it and overseeing all the subcontractor suppliers, checking in daily, weekly progress meetings, and making sure everything's coming in on time. That's the bulk of it. Otherwise, there's a section for, obviously, equipment too. If there's dumpsters, final cleaning, other incidentals that we are doing as overall, that's also part of the GCs. Builder's risk, contractors, required insurance for our umbrella, pollution, liability, general liability, some of those standard items per our contractor and the GCs too.
And then the other question I wanted to get out on the record was, as far as looks like Marquette and Johnson got the bid for a lot of aspects to this. I shouldn't say a lot, but there's several on here, like demolition I saw in one of the buildings and so forth. So if we can just talk a little bit about that, is this typical for our GC to self-perform?
Sure. Yeah, I believe we were successful. I don't know what the exact rate was that we were low bid on. Maybe 50% if I had to guess. But I'd say our hit rate is usually higher than that. But we're happy to have other people do the work too, and they're doing it per plans, per specs, as Bray has it outlined. They're reputable firms that we have plugged in. I think there's some concrete competition in there, masonry competition that I think Harbor City was another bidder that has a couple packages. So we lost more than what we usually pick up, but it's benefiting you guys, the school district, that you have the low bidder on it, so.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
Yeah,
Any other-
and Market had to submit their bids to the school district directly prior to seeing any of the bids from any of the other bidders. So we went through that whole process to ensure that nobody could say, well, Market got the bids first, and then they just kind of undercut other people. We made sure there was a very, very clear process to what that looked like, so that nobody could come back and say there was anything underhanded or anything along those lines.
Yeah, well, it looks like we did a good job of, getting low bids then. And, I mean, from experience with the high school, there were some areas where some bids were like a third of what the other bid was or something like that, and then you kind of knew something was up, there might be something wrong.
Sure.
Something not fully understood or whatever, but,
Yep. I mean, we do have 2 packages that we are going to probably go out for rebid. We're still weighing the pros and cons on. One of which is card access control. We're working on updating the specifications to make sure we're matching the existing system for all 3 schools. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a large dollar amount, but more than likely we will be rebidding that package. The second package is building automation, the controls for the HVAC system. That one had a bigger swing in pricing numbers from bid day. So we're working on finding out exactly the details of that and the pros and cons, and we may go back out and rebid that as well, but we're going back and fact gathering right now to make sure it nets in a positive result versus negative. So this is a GMP. We're not going to recommend anything higher than this, and so we're working on those 2 right now that are basically allowances for those.
so, but this 60 to 90 day delay, so to speak, if you will, and approving what's on the board here, that, what does that impact the final completion date?
Will be done at the end of next summer.
Okay, so it's still, the end time is still going to be the same, just that we saved several $1 million in the process of doing
Yep.
this rebid. So,
Completion is the same, yep.
all right, very good. Thanks for answering my questions.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So the motion we would look for would be to approve the guaranteed maximum price for each of the 3 projects as outlined in the letter, and allow Market and Johnson to enter in the contracts based on that information. Because remember, they're going to hold all the contracts. We only have one contract with them.
All right. Is there anyone that wants to make the motion then? Do we need to restate each of the amounts?
I mean, you can say the guaranteed maximum price for North Hudson and read the amount, guaranteed maximum price for EPR.
Yeah, it's right in the letter there.
It's right in the, yeah.
Who's willing to make that motion? Okay.
I can do it.
All right,
What do
go
you want me
for
to
it.
say?
It's just, we've
Just
got,
so we're-
we've got 3 buildings, plus we've got the, the office,
Okay.
administrative office.
So I move we approve the guaranteed maximum price as indicated in this letter of July 15th from Market and Johnson at North Hudson Elementary for $16,366,615, for EP Rock in the amount of $13,771,326, and the middle school for the amount of $12,205,122.
Second.
And scroll down.
Hold on, we need one more.
And a fourth one.
And a fourth
The
one.
district office, the amount of $1,413,849.
Second.
All right, I'll give Bob the second there. Thank you, Bob. And just a reminder, too, that district office, again, that is not being funded out of the referendum or anything like that. That's purely out of the proceeds of eventually the sale of this building. Hopefully it covers it all. Yes. All right, we've got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll do another roll call vote. Bauman?
Aye.
Garza?
Aye.
Powers?
Aye.
Johnson, aye. The ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We're going to lose our entire audience now.
Thanks.
Next up is the St. Croix County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Bonnie?
Has been updating the St. Croix Hazard Mitigation Plan. So they updated our section. We had Tracy review it as part of our safety director. Dustin reviewed it as well. So they've requested that we pass this resolution as the governing body. And basically, when this plan is done, it allows us to be eligible for FEMA aid if there were a disaster in this area.
Okay. And again, this is something that's already been vetted by the experts. And
Yes.
the main thing is, we don't want to approve something and find out later it doesn't qualify us for FEMA, but we've got a high confidence level that the wording is sufficient.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, yes, you can.
In the hazard threat assessment, what does absenteeism mean in that? It's on page 2 of the first school the first act subplan. Page 2, top of the page, hazard, history, or probability, and then absenteeism. What does that mean?
I don't want to speculate exactly what, but I can definitely get the answer and bring it back, because they said if we needed 2 readings to do it, we could get an answer for you. I just don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
No, I mean, it just is a kind of a strange, I just don't, I don't know. I can't quite figure out what that.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. There's a whole column labeled absenteeism.
So it's like the number of impactful events, no significant impact. And then like the winter storm, ice, and extreme cold, significant impact, 3+ events. Okay. Why absenteeism? I'm just like, okay.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you for being knowledgeable.
Thanks for being smart.
So the only thing we qualify for significant impact is winter storms and pandemics, I guess. All right.
Actually, I have 2 more questions. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The standard radio system between buildings and law enforcement. So right now, we don't have anything like that. So that would be something we'd be looking to get like a grant or something to pay for a system. Is that correct?
Correct. We do have radios that work between our buildings. It's just having radios that work with law enforcement.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we cannot communicate with law enforcement. We do have practices and protocols in place so we know how to do that communication. It's just our radios are not connected.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's an issue we may not be able to solve because law enforcement uses a frequency that
a different
is restricted for law enforcement.
Okay. And then what is the STEP program, Student Tools for Emergency Planning? Is that, it's like some state program of, but what does that do? Do you know? Anyone?
The last one on under plan coordination, other. I wonder if that's Tara.
I have never heard of it, so I don't know what that is.
Okay, just curious. It sounds like there's a class for planning for emergencies for kids. I don't know. Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have a motion then to approve the hazard mitigation plan?
Did you want an answer to that before?
No, I don't.
It says we're not.
Yeah, and I think it's not vital. I just wanted to. I don't think it's, it wouldn't stop me from saying we should
Okay.
move forward on this. No. Thanks.
Motion to approve the St. Croix County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Bob, you good?
Aye.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the mitigation plan is approved. Next up, Dave, it's our annual approval of academic standards.
It's the one you've all been waiting for, the old annual approval of academic standards. So this is.
Do we need a roll call vote on this one?
No, you do not need a roll
Okay.
call vote. So by law, the first board meeting of the year, it's required the board adopt our academic standards. As a reminder, academic standards serve as the guideposts and the goals for our students. They represent the essentially what we want students to be able to do and what we want them to know as a result of our curriculum and instruction. They do not, however, define curriculum. We do that. These provide a guide that we use. Typically, they're aligned to the assessments. This is why you'll see when we get to the recommendation, I recommend that we approve the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, because those are the assessments that we take. That's what our students are held accountable to. It's what we're held accountable to, so alignment makes the most sense. It is what we've been doing for, since the standards have been in place, and they've served us well. If we go to one more slide there, Tim. Thank you. I'm sorry, back one. There we go. These are the areas, the content areas that will be up for review. When we look at approval of revisions, April 2025, in essence, if you approve this, that's what you're approving. These would be the new sets of standards that would be in place. But we're showing also what would be upcoming and what we'll be looking at in the future. It's nice. DPI has sort of caught up. We had a few. You'll see the parenthetical reference on each of these is the last time they were reviewed. Some have been relatively old, but they're in a catch-up cycle and in a pretty good place. So that helps us quite a bit. It's nice when we go through a curricular review and the academic standards have been updated in the course of our implementation of whatever that curricular area is. That always helps us and keeps everything aligned as much as possible. So as I mentioned, the recommendation is to maintain the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards as the academic standards used in the Hudson School District for the 24-25 school district. And if approved, we'll update the website to meet the annual notice requirements as required by law.
If you can go back to that one slide prior, I just had one question, Dave, and that is, for some of those standards, it says essential elements. On the
Oh,
slide.
yep, thank you. Yeah, so essential elements, those are standards, it's a subset of the standards that are for our most impacted students with disabilities. So they define what we'd want students in the what we'd call low incidence program. So a disability that does not, that we do not deal with that often, that only a very small percentage of students have. So that's what those are for.
Okay, because I saw 2 for social studies, 1 for essential elements, and 1 for regular social
Yes.
studies. Likewise, you see that for science.
Yeah, so
there.
like when we see the forward exam, sometimes we'll give 2 data points in terms of the results. One is for the DLM, which is Dynamic Learning Map. That's an assessment that, again, only a small percentage of our students take. Those are the standards that create essentially that assessment.
All right, thanks for that explanation. Is there a motion to approve our academic standards for the 24-25 school year?
Mr. President, motion to approve and maintain the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards for the 24-25 school year.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Kate, second by Molly. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next up is ratification of the 24-25 collective bargaining agreement. Nick, you want to just introduce this? Mike?
So the collective bargaining agreement, the union ratified this, the WEAC,
Yes, I got confirmation of that tonight from Scott.
so they ratified it as well. Essentially, it's a 4.1% increase. It includes lane and step movement, basically everything in the document. The recommendation would be to approve the document and the ratification between the union and the district. So, any questions?
And then the new structure is approved there with the 24-25. That's part of, would be part of the motion. Is there any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the tentative agreement for 24-25 collective bargaining as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Kate. This is another one that has budgetary impact, so we want to do a roll call vote. Bauman,
Aye.
Garza,
Aye.
Powers,
Aye.
and Johnson, aye. Motion passes. Last, but certainly not least on our action agenda, is back talking about school calendars again.
Yeah, so this school calendar, if you remember the last time we met, we talked about some revisions to the school calendar. This represents those revisions as we understand them. Wanted to run them by you one more time, look for final approval. The adjustments, minor adjustments, we included the first day of 4K and first day of kindergarten. That was something that was asked for, so that's noted separately. They start a little bit later, or a little bit later than the rest of our students in grades 1 through 12. And then the big change is moving graduation to Friday, May 23rd, the Friday before Memorial Day, and then adjusting that to an early out. And that's what's represented on this calendar. If you remember, we did talk to, or we didn't, Principal Ballard talked to members of the Hudson Safe to make sure that the all-night senior party would work and that early release they felt would allow enough time to get that set up. And the idea of linking this to Memorial Day weekend, have it on Friday, so there's still a long weekend. We think it works best for most stakeholders in the community, so this is the recommendation.
Mr. President?
Ms. Molly.
Yes, calendar, we're back at it. I just wanted to voice a concern. I had heard from a parent that, and I've talked to Nick about this, but I just wanted to share. I think maybe you got it, maybe not. Just that the burden, because it's changed to Friday, the burden is placed on parents and students, they felt, rather than teachers. So the people who they felt were the ones who, this is a graduation, were the students, then, and the parents, who were the most important people to be there, they thought, it makes it a little more difficult if parents are coming from work and things like that. And so we talked about that a little bit, that no one is, it's not perfect, you know, and that everybody's going to have to probably compromise on this sort of thing. And one thing that I'm wondering if we can just kind of after we go through this next year, let's assess what this looked like. Did it help teachers? Was it really difficult for families? Do we have students show up? Just all those things. How did it work? I would think that would be a good thing to do.
And, you know, in addition to that, perhaps it'd be a good time just to do another survey on calendar in general. It's been quite a few years since we've done that. We gathered some really good feedback from both internally and externally families. So it might be a good time to do that. Since there is a change, we can gather both the specific information on how graduation went, but also some more general information just on what the priorities are in the calendar.
Any further questions about calendar, Kate?
Would graduation then be at 7 p.m. per usual? Okay. Yeah, I think the feedback portion is important, so parents who maybe were voicing some of those concerns, make sure and let us know what their thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the districts I've been involved with, I've seen graduation, because I graduated on a Friday night, and it was the third Friday in May, so that on this next year's calendar would have been as early as May 16th. And then we had in our district, graduation go as late as June 7th in the last 5 years. So there's a wide range there, and graduations start about mid-May. This isn't necessarily the way what I was anticipating, but it does make sense to me. As far as, the only question I had is, how many days can you cut off of the year for seniors and make the rest of the students go to? And we're doing roughly 6, I guess, 4 in 1 week and then 2 the next week. But that's not terrible. I see other districts doing that many or more, so. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the new calendar, which essentially just moves up graduation to the Friday before Memorial Day instead of the Friday after.
Mr. President, motion to approve the Hudson School District calendar 24-25 school year.
Second?
We have a motion, and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Good job, Bob. You were right in unison on that one.
Starting tomorrow, we'll get something out, because I know on our school calendar on the website, it has the 30th still. On the paper calendar, it shows the 23rd, so they're asking which one is it, so we'll get that sent out, and we'll get that cleaned up, so.
All right. Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
All right. I don't see any further agenda items to approve, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Molly, second by Kate, and we will be adjourning then for a 5-minute recess, and then we'll start the longer meeting, which will be the work session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
I don't know if we'll be